Yo, what up guys? Today I'll be showing you how I made the XQC offline screen remake. And I'll just be walking you through the steps that I took and my workflow. This video is made for both people that know how to work in 3D, but also is made for people that might not have any clue on how to go about making a scene like this. So let's just jump straight into it. I made the scene using Cinema 4D. I rendered it with Octane Render and used X particles for the simulations. I started off just importing some planes and trying to match the dimensions of the original one, and I also started to light the scene to get a feel of where I'm going. I added assets and textures by using the Quixel library. These are all the assets I used for this project. There's one asset that I didn't use from Quixel, just this raining animated texture, which came in very handy when using it as a decal for the wall. Its main purpose though was using it for the rain on the window. But using the roughness channel as an opacity layer worked out pretty well for the decal. For the right wall I used a gradient to mix between two different textures to avoid tiling. Tiling is most noticeable when there is a prominent feature that repeats itself. In this case it was this crack down here. Moving on, I added the room with the screen in it and the background. Making the neon sign was pretty easy. What I did was sweep a circle around the text spline. From there, I just had to add an emission shader and separate the sea from the rest so I can animate a flicker. I then imported the GIF emotes into After Effects and exported them at the correct frame rate to fit the project settings. By just putting them on planes and also exporting a opacity layer, it was pretty easy to put them into the scene. Up until this point, the scene was very easy to create. Now comes the hardest part, the simulation. I used an emitter to emit rain particles. An Octane object tag is telling these particles to display a raindrop that I've previously modeled. There are only a few modifiers affecting this rain. One is gravity, one is wind to keep them from being completely straight, and there's a few boxes that kill the particles that leave the scene. The same concept applies to the pipes. Basically, they just emit particles at a certain speed, and using an OVDB mesher, they generate a mesh that can then be textured. Now comes the part that honestly took the most amount of time in this whole project, and it's the water simulation happening that's being caused by the raindrops. So basically, when the rain particles collide with the collide planes, they spawn new particles, which are in a fluid sim and behave like fluid. This allows the dropping particles to interact with the water that's already there. There's a few control modifiers that are telling these particles how to behave. One of them is an attractor pulling all the particles towards the sewer. What was important here was the balance between making the attractor strong enough to not raise the water level, but not too strong to avoid patches appearing like shown here. That was it for the breakdown. I hope you enjoyed. If I went into this project knowing exactly where I was going, I would have spent way less time on this, but that's just never how it is. Most time was just spent tweaking settings, making small adjustments, trying out stuff, testing out stuff. So yeah, that's where most time went into when making this project. I hope you guys liked this little breakdown. Maybe gave you a little peek into 3D and how things work. Maybe you actually learned something for your next project. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed your stay. See ya.